So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Learn, Explore, Debate event. I'm Gill Holden. I'm the Principal Officer of the Early Childhood Unit here at the National Children's Bureau, and I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of NCB to our Learn, Explore, Debate event tonight. This is the first of three repeated events that are happening throughout this week and next week. So for those of you who just joined, thank you, and thank you all for joining us so promptly. As I've just said, I'm Gill Holden, and we're really pleased to present this event tonight on behalf of the Department for Education. So NCB delivers these events in our capacity as Department for Education stakeholder engagement partner for the early years sector. And the events bring together early years teachers, practitioners, leaders from across the country, along with local authority representatives tonight. So we're really pleased that you're all here and able to join us. Feedback from previous LED events is what shaped our agenda for today. And also following that feedback, this event has been specifically aimed at school-based staff. And we're really pleased to be focusing on topics that you've told us you'd like to explore, with today as being able to focus mainly on the theme of assessment following the EYFS reforms, and also looking at inspection under the new framework with Ofsted. I'll say a little bit more about the agenda and how the event's going to run a little bit later on. But first, I just wanted to take a couple of moments to pause and reflect on the ongoing challenges faced by the early years sector. I can get my slide to move. So if we pause for just a moment to think about the impact of the last 2 years, and quite significant that today, being the 23rd of March, is 2 years exactly to the day that we first went into that big lockdown, and we had no idea, did we, what was ahead of us at this point 2 years ago. And I probably reflect on thinking it's probably just as well we didn't know completely what was ahead of us. But it's been a challenging 2 years, hasn't it, both for you and for the small children that you work with. You can see from this slide I've put together here the percentage of children's lives that's been throughout the pandemic. So even our oldest children in our early years foundation stage have lived 40% of their lives in a pandemic. And I just sometimes think about what 40% of my life was and how significant an impact that was. And what are the implications for our 5-year-olds? So those children who are making the transition this year into year one and potentially missing out on their huge chunk of their early years experiences. Then, of course, our 4-year-olds who spent half of their lives throughout these challenging times. Our 3-year-olds, 75% of their lives. And for our 2-year-olds, who majority of whom aren't quite in schools yet, although I know a good number of you out there have provision for 2-year-olds. But for our 2-year-olds and younger, 100% of their lives have been lived during pandemic or post-pandemic times. And then what about those babies who have been born in the pandemic? We, of course, know that children are amazingly resilient and often adapt to changes. However, we also know from what you're telling us and from recent studies that children's development has been affected. Most notably, there are concerns about personal, social, emotional development and communication and language skills. And we also know that these are key skills for children's future development and well-being. We also know that there's been a significant increase in other factors that affected young children, such as increase in safeguarding concerns and the increase in domestic abuse and the secondary trauma that all causes. So reflecting on these challenging times, there's no doubt that this has been, like I say, challenging times for everyone, for you as staff and for the children and families you work with. And throughout the pandemic, you've all continued to work tirelessly for the children in your care, and for those of you who are local authority also supporting other colleagues as well. Working in very challenging circumstances, adapting practices and routines continually, learning words we never knew we'd learn before, learning, like who'd heard of Zoom before, learning routines that we never thought we'd have to. So now, even though the majority of the restrictions we know have been lifted, times are still challenging, and I think it's important that we recognise that. We hear about the struggles many of you are having with staff recruitment or retention or continued absences due to COVID and the broader context of exhaustion over the last 2 years, adding to how busy and stretched you all are. So I just want to take a moment to thank you all for the amazing work you're doing for the children and families that you support and care for, and of course for supporting your colleagues. And I just put up here the first line from Development Matters 2021 that states, "No job is more important than working with children in the early years." And we want to reiterate this and applaud you for the work you're doing every day. You make a difference to the children and the young families that you work for. I particularly want to highlight the last point here, the importance of continuing to look after each other and of course yourselves. And it's vitally important to recognise how tough these times have been and continue to be, a necessity for kindness and finding strategies to support well-being and recognising that self-care is crucial. We also want to take time to thank you for attending today's event and for prioritising being here. We hope you find the event really useful and stimulating and supportive, and we hope you'll be able to take back the key messages from today and share with your colleagues, that hopefully might offer some reassurance about some of the changes that we've had regarding frameworks over the last recent few months. For those who couldn't make it to one of the events, they are of course all being recorded and will be available shortly on the Foundation Years website. So NCB continues to work to raise the profile of early years, supporting children and families and early years professionals. And our role as DFE strategic partner, we work with DFE to improve practitioner knowledge, skills and confidence by listening to the sector and facilitating healthy debate between DFE and the sector. We also bring people and partners together and organisations together to drive change in society and to deliver a better childhood across the UK. We believe in always working in partnership with children, parents and professionals. So as part of the Department for Education Strategic Partner for Early Years, through the Foundation Years community, we provide you with the latest official information on early years policy and strive to continue to create opportunities such as these events to bring the Department for Education sector together for policy, practice and improvement. So you can see from the slide I've got here on the screen, oops, she says as she moves it accidentally. You can see from the slide I have here on the screen how you can link up with the Foundation Years community through our website and social media channels, and we invite you to follow us and subscribe to our mailing list if you haven't done so already. And you can also join a conversation today live on Twitter using the hashtag LED events, and please do feel free to tag us with either @NCB or @Foundation Years in those tweets. So today's agenda, like I say, has been developed alongside the Department for Education following feedback from previous LED events and also from feedback through our website. And we're pleased to be focusing on assessment under the revised EYFS and inspections under the new framework. So as I mentioned earlier, following feedback which identified this as a need, we've put this round of events on specifically for school-based staff. And we're also pleased to be able to extend our invites to local authority colleagues who we know who are supporting you all, working really hard to support you all in your regional areas. We want to recognise the department has listened to and agreed to the themes for these events in response to what the sector has requested.